One of the problems that we have in today's society is that we have no idea how hard people are working to manipulate us and the billion-dollar industry that's behind it. And we want to expose that. So today we're talking with our IT director here at Learn Online Security, Chris Howells, so that we can understand what social engineering security is and why we should care. So let's dive right into the question of the hour. Let's define social engineering security.
There's multiple definitions out there, but the definition that I feel the most comfortable putting out there, social engineering is the ability to collect information of an individual that I can either mimic, duplicate, or impersonate digitally online to make them do what I want them to do. So whether I collect that information through social media, I collect that information in person, I run an influencing campaign to get them to behave a certain way, all of that is different forms of social engineering.
Some of the definitions out there, if you look at it, so Wikipedia defines social engineering security. So in the context of information security, we should say social engineering itself there's multiple different types. So within political science, there's social engineering controlling the masses, and that's not what we're talking about here as much as we're talking about the actual individual manipulation. So social engineering is the psychological manipulation of people into performing actions or divulging confidential information, which then you can take and use how you want. So what do you think of that definition?
I'm very comfortable with that. Like you say, social engineering spans a great big area. Social engineering's had many, many names. This is the newest buzzword of what it is. I mean, through the 80s and 90s, we called it identity theft. Prior to that, like you say, it's politicians use it, salesmen use it, spouses use it, children use it. Everybody uses it to some degree to extract information or influence the behavior. The question is, as computers came into our realm in the late 70s, early 80s, information needed to be collected in a different way. And once we started collecting that information, the unscrupulous, or even the scrupulous for that matter, now had a new avenue to turn around and use.
Oh, for sure. Another definition that I kind of like is any act that influences a person to take an action that may or may not be in their best interests. And that particular definition sticks out to me because I think of all of the phishing emails and the scareware and all of those things. They're all designed to make you take an action that's not in your best interest. You shouldn't follow this path, but I want you to because then I can manipulate you and get some information from you.
And what's good about that definition is it gets people themselves thinking about it. Most people don't think about what we do or how we do something. We instinctively react. Social engineering is designed to take that instinctive reaction and point it in one direction or another so it now controls your action.
So John McAfee, this is a fellow that founded McAfee, the computer software security company, now worth about $1.92 billion. He wrote a saying about social engineering that it has become about 75% of an hacker's toolkit. And for most successful hackers, it reaches 90% or more. So a lot of the hacking that we think of, when we think of hacking, we think of someone sitting on a computer somewhere with a bunch of code streaming across the screen, and they're infiltrating systems and breaking down governments and all of these things. But in reality, social engineering is a huge part.
Social engineering, that number 75% to me is actually pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
I am CompTIA certified in their Security Plus program. They dedicate almost 4 chapters of their program to this particular topic. There are people that do not know a single thing about computers, but they know how to social engineer you, and they can sell that information to those that do. One of the biggest nations that are known for manipulation and attacking is indirectly referred to as the India crisis, where they have these illegal call centers where they apply pressure to you to get the information. The people in those call centers, they have no technical background whatsoever. Their sole purpose is to collect that information.
And then pass that on to whoever's going to end up utilizing it.
And what people don't even begin to realize, we've ran the course a couple of times. And one of the things that we do in our courses is I take a photo stock picture, put it up. I tell people, tell me about that person. And people start to realize very, very quickly how we are taught social cues and how to socially engineer a person. We know nothing about the individual in the picture, but they'll come up with, well, there's no ring indication, so that tells me that they're either single or in a relationship, but they're not committed to somebody. Another person, well, they're carrying their sunglasses versus wearing them, so it's this time of day. Another person, there's no electronics on them, so they're not electronically dependent. These are all things that we don't think about, but it's all part of that social engineering environment.
So then the topic comes, we know what social engineering is. We know that people are trying to manipulate us and to get our information. But the biggest reason as to why we're even starting this in the first place is to educate people, because you shouldn't be getting taken advantage of from these people who are trying to scam you. And we want to make sure that you have the tools and the resources to be able to notice and for those red flags to pop up. I think a lot of people in our society are not familiar with the red flags, and we often talk about the cyber street smarts that older people seem to have that younger people just were never taught.
And that's something that we go with as we've advanced in technology. The older generations, I'm not going to say that I'm young, I'm not going to say that I'm old, but I'm somewhere in between. We played outside, our friends, we grew up in the technology. And what happened is, as we grew up in the technology, we taught our parents, not the other way around.
Right.
And our children taught us, and their children will teach them. So the street smarts vanished because there isn't as much community supervision as there used to be. As soon as you take your computer and you log online, your phone, your computer, your gaming system, once you've left the comfort of your living room via the internet or an online service, there's no supervision of you anymore. When we grew up, even though we left the house, the entire neighborhood took care of you, because the entire neighborhood's best interest was to make sure you were okay. And you were commonly taught, this is safe, this isn't safe. And you learned it. You learned by being able to go out into the environment.
Some of those things, those lessons you learned right away, though, because you fall out of a tree and it's like, wow, that's not the safest thing to do, to go out on a dead branch.
Well, the fall didn't hurt, but the landing sure did.
But with the cyber stuff, you don't even realize what's happening to you until they've cleaned out your bank account.
What's interesting about that is how people are being engineered. Through our courses, you've watched me do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the episode of The Muppets where Elton John was on?
I do not.
You do not. So I automatically am able to turn around and place your birthday post 1980. I can tell anybody that tells me, yeah, I remember that. The episode was aired in 1978.
Right.
So that, in order for you to truly be able to remember it, you need to be born between 1972 and roughly 1967.
And
so
to have a
5-year
TV.
window. And to have a TV.
Yeah.
But it's a 5-year window for me to pick from. Now I'm going to ask another unrelated question, and this is how social engineering works. I ask another unrelated question, and I'm going to use Facebook, and I'm going to pick on Facebook for this, but other social media platforms are just as good. So that week I asked how many people watched that episode. The week after, I turn around and say, what's your Chinese zodiac sign? Remember, I'm dealing with a 7-year brick.
Yeah.
and I'm trying to narrow you down. I ask what your Chinese zodiac sign is. I've now been able to pigeonhole you into a year. Because nobody's going to think about it. I'm the year of the rat, I'm the year of the pig, I'm the year of the dragon, I'm the year of the chicken. 12-year span in the Chinese zodiac sign. And then it repeats. So I have a whole decade to work from. I now have you pigeonholed quickly.
Well, you can further take that down and then say, okay, what's your horoscope? And now you've got down to a month as to what a person's birthday could potentially be.
I can even take it a step further, like you point out the horoscope. Horoscopes bridge 2 months, the middle of a month to a middle of a month.
Yeah.
So the tail end of a month to the middle of the next month. So I'm bad with horoscopes, so I'm going to pick the Cancer. I know Cancer bridges the tail end of June, and it reaches through to the mid-July.
Right.
Aries bridges the tail end of March, reaches through to April. I'm got a 2-month period to pick from. And it takes very few questions to start pinning stuff down.
Really with social, like if we look at the idea of how do I figure out what your birth date is without knowing you, you can use some of these questions to figure it out. But with social media now, it's so easy to figure out a person's birth date. You just scroll through the public feed and it's like, oh, everyone's wishing you happy birthday.
Yep.
Year later, oh, everyone's wishing you happy birthday. And so you can narrow down birth dates like super happy 35th birthday, happy 25th birthday. It's generally up there on the feed and boom, I've got your birthday within seconds.
And the thing with social media is it says so much about a person very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you an interest. It tells you who your friends are. It tells you roughly what your occupation is. It tells me what your disposable income is. It tells me if you're worth my effort to bother with or move on from.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Another John McAfee quote is, making money is easy. The difficult thing in life is not making it, it's keeping it. And, you make some money. There's a ton of people that are out there that are trying to get your money, from advertisers to marketers to, the car salesman down the road that's got just the perfect vehicle for you, and add to the list all of the people who are trying to social engineer you to get at your retirement savings or get into your business and disrupt your business in some way.
And that's a common myth. Like, you're really expanding on what people think a hacker is.
Mm-hmm.
A hacker isn't necessarily a nefarious person. It could be that salesman that's selling you a car. Hey, I came in and I went and looked at a Lamborghini Diablo, whatever. Okay, so what's this? The salesman comes back and pulls me up on social media. What's my interest? What do I have? What do I do? All of that's up there for him. Now he's going to turn around and decide how he's going to best invest in me or not invest in me. Life insurance people, they use social media all the time. They target new parents. They target the elderly. They target whatever. It's just a quick scan of who's your friends. I found somebody who's their friends. What is their average, whatchamacallit. It isn't always nefarious. But the more information you put out there, the more information they have about you.
Typically, I'll find now that if I'm trying to figure out, so we have someone reach out to us and we're trying to figure out if they're legit or not, we'll use social media to find out, okay, does this person exist? Where do they live? Do they have this business? Do they not have this business? Because there's lots of people out there pretending to be people, and we don't want to start some sort of project or dialogue with them or say, yeah, we'll accept your money for our services when, in fact, they're not an actual real person.
And that's a whole other avenue. And what's going to make that more confusing in the near future is AI. Because AI will be able to generate that information. You're still not dealing with a real person. AI is already in use and people don't realize it when they go to a website. That chat bot that pops up, that's an AI. It's got a select pile of, if I choose X, I must give response Y, with the options of A, B, C, and E, because D does not apply. And it's already figured out that way.
So in the last couple minutes that we got here, we just want to touch on one thing. Why are people doing it? And I think the answer is somewhat obvious. That's where the money is. I don't know if you're familiar with the story of Willie Sutton. He's a well-known bank robber, and he committed his first bank heist in 1925 in New York. And he would be on the FBI's most wanted list with over $2 million in stolen goods and put him in prison for 33 years. So when asked, why did you rob banks? Willie's credited with replying, because that's where the money is.
And what's scary about that is, let's look at that number. That's $22 million in 1925 money.
Well, that was $2 million in 1925 money.
$2 million.
Yeah.
That'd be pushing billions today.
It's a couple dollars.
It's a couple dollars. And what people don't understand is, and we do our courses, and you've been there at the courses, and people go, well, why did they choose me? I am a minimum wage job. I do nothing, everything else. The answer is, this is where the money is. Sometimes I just need an edge to get in. It's great to go rob Donald Trump because that's where the money is. But the reality is, I'm not going to get to Donald unless I get through the receptionist.
And you don't even need to get to Donald. You just need to get through his security team that's actually holding on to his money, or get onto all of these other things. The target is not always the target.
No.
Yeah.
It's just a means to get there.